This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truths channel. How's everybody doing this evening? Yes, I'm actually doing a live stream again. I've only done one live stream in the last month because dealing with my brother's death and stuff, I had some personal stuff. So that took priority over World War III, I guess. And I've been dealing with that. So, when you get older, it seems like you go to the cemetery a lot more to see friends and relatives than you do in real person. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. Plus, a little problem with YouTube. They want shadow ban me so much and stuff. So I just decided I would take it easy on YouTube. Try to build my channel another way. But anyway, they got it clamped down. But tonight we're going to have a discussion on are we going to invade Iran with ground forces, a ground war, and my perspective on that, since I was 39 years ago, starting in April next month, we left, Morehead City, North Carolina on ships as Marines headed out there and stuff. So I got a perspective on MAUs, Marine Amphibious Units, and Marine Expeditionary Forces and stuff. So we're going to have a discussion about that because a lot of people are getting the wrong idea. And I do believe it's a disinformation campaign that they're trying to get the Americans to believe in. But like I say, I got a little bit more experience in that area. 39 years ago, yep, 1987. Crazy times. It's amazing how time flies. But yeah, I'm going to give you my perspective on what I think if there's going to be a ground invasion of Iran, because I don't think there's going to be. But anyway, waiting for some people to show up. I tell you what, I'm here in the Panhandle, Nebraska, and we had one heck of a fire. Over 500,000 acres. It started Thursday. I mean, it's so dry out here. We really haven't got moisture in 6 months. We never did get winter, snow, or nothing like that. But anyway, it's just as dry as can be. And this fire started, okay, and they didn't get control of it Thursday. We had real high winds and stuff, and it took off. And crazy time. I mean, it started in Bridgeport, and it got all the way to Lake McConaughey. That's 60 miles. Hey, how's it going? Appreciate you being here. That's 60 miles. And then the winds came out of the south, and then to push the northern edge of the fire, it pushed that north, and that fire went 60 miles. Like you say, they'd say 500,000 acres. I bet you it's probably close to 700,000 acres that got burned. But everybody, that's just one other thing we got to be careful of. If you guys are getting moisture right now, even if it's snow, be happy. Let's get into the subject. Is there going to be a ground invasion of Iran? A Marine's perspective that was there. 39 years ago, when I was in the Marine Corps out of Camp Lejeune, the deploying base, I was in the deploying unit. And I was belonged to it's a 6-month rotation, right? When you go overseas and you're in the deploying unit, and they got the amphibious assault part, okay, which we were in, which consists of a helicopter carrier, 2 smaller landing craft. They're called LPHs, or they were when I was in, but we had 4 helicopters on each of them, and then I think we had 3 LSTs, so there might have been 6 ships, right? But anyway, our unit got split up on the 2 ships. Half of our 2nd platoon went to the LST, and they were part of the ground part. The LSTs are the ones that the Amtraks come off and all that stuff. And we were on one of the helicopter, the carriers, because our platoon, we were the air assault crew. Anyway, lots of time in a helicopter. But anyway, okay, and ours was called, back in 1987, we were the MAU SOC, part of the MEF, okay, which means we were the Marine Amphibious Unit Special Operations Capable, part of the Marine Expeditionary Force. Mao, Sock, Meth, Mew. Crazy times. But anyway, let's get into, so I'm trying to say is I've been out there in the same situation. When Iran flared up in the mine-sweeping shit in 1987, and we were in the Med, and then we went through the Red Sea. We weren't ordered to the Gulf yet. We were cruising down the coast of Africa, went through the Suez Canal. I mean, it was nice seeing all this stuff. Like I say, you really see how spoiled Americans are at when you see this type of stuff. And then we went into the Red Sea, which I think is the hottest I've ever been in my life. And then we went down the coast of Africa and hit a storm. Whew, that was one hell of a storm. Anyway, never got seasick again after that storm. And then we went to Kenya, right? And then we got ordered out of Kenya, out of Mombasa, and we got orders to the Gulf. This was 1987. And this is how I got to see Diego Garcia, because we steamed from Kenya. I can't remember how many. It took us maybe 2.5 days, I think it might have been. We had to steam to Diego Garcia to bring on the equipment we needed for the mission we had in the Gulf and stuff. Okay, 39 years ago. But tensions were high, but we weren't at war. I mean, it was a situation, as you call it in the service. I remember Time magazine came out, and this is when I knew the press was all screwed up, because what was going on and what was on the cover of the magazine was completely two different things. Cite the fiber options. Say hi. Sorry, I haven't been watching the chat. But anyway, being out there like that, you got 2,500 Marines, let's say on 5 or 6 ships. Okay? And it's designed so that they can support the Marines on land with beans, bullets, and Band-Aids to fight the bad guys for 6 weeks. Okay? Now, that's just to send the force. See, we got Marines floating around for special occasions like this. When ship flares up, they can go in. But the thing is, when these ships if we're going to do a land invasion or beach invasion, these ships, when they're unloading their landing craft and stuff, have to be still. They can't be floating around the ocean, floating. They got to be still, sitting targets. I mean, Iran's got, anti-ship missile batteries 200 miles off the coast in the mountains. I mean, they'd be sitting ducks. I mean, really, 6 ships, amphibious assault, let's say they send in everything, it'd be a slaughter. I mean, and if we try to do what we did in Desert Storm and for 6 months build up our 4 months, build up our forces, where? Iran can hit all of anything where we try to stage equipment. Look how long they staged in World War II in England before they stormed France. Like I say, the Gulf War. You need a place to assemble everything. I mean, you send those Marines in, how are you going to support them? You got 6 ships there with Marines. Really? I mean, it's not going to be good. In 1987, we didn't have the technology they do now. We still were going through the Strait of Hormuz, patrolling it. Okay? Not doing that no more. It can't happen. 2,500 Marines. See, this is the decoy, everybody. This is the decoy. They're trying to get Americans to accept this as this is going to happen. I know the Iranian military isn't buying for a second. It'd be a slaughter before they even got on the shore. I mean, those ships got to be 2 or 3 miles. If they go 2 or 3 miles before they start unloading the stuff, I mean, they're going to be shot up 6 ships. I mean, we won't even sail a destroyer through the Strait of Hormuz. A destroyer. That's armed pretty good. You're going to send amphibious assault ships that maybe have some, we had 3-inch cannons on there back then, and they had the sea was the radar guided Gatling gun to shoot down missiles and, that type of stuff. But nothing like a destroyer. You're going to send those thin-skinned vessels through there, and guess where all the Marines sleep? Along the outside of the damn thing, in the back. The sailors get the front of the ship. But there's no way it can happen. And if they said, I was thinking, well, if they send in the airborne, the 82nd and the 101st, right? But then it comes down to it, how are you going to support them? I mean, you're going to get a combat load when you leave the ship or when you jump out of the airplane? Then who's going to give you your second combat load that you're going to need? Why we can't just be humans and respect each other? I know. I got an argument with somebody today about because I don't want to be at war with Iran. Iran can't hurt us. Okay? If we'd stay out of the Middle East, they probably wouldn't give a shit about us. And this is one thing. Even if the U.S. decides to back out of this, and let's say turn tail and say, okay, we can't achieve our objectives, Iran is still going to be at war with us. No matter where America goes, Iran will always be at war with us now. They were just, a pain in our ass for a while. It's going to be a lot worse now. So, but anyway, this land invasion isn't going to happen. 2,500 Marines, are you kidding me? In today's world, what are they going to do? I mean, the choppers, like I say, I was on the air side. We went in by chopper. It doesn't take long to blow them out of the air. I mean, Iran is not Afghanistan. And let's not forget, we won for 20 years in Afghanistan, bombing the shit out of them, and we still lost. Your economy will be damned if your politicians say no to Israel. And you know that, brother, since you are American, definitely you know more than me. Oh, I did a video on my videos the other day about Iran's nuclear option. Their nuclear option is to sit there and crash the American economy, which would destroy the America just as bad as a nuclear weapon would. And all they got to do is keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. See, or not open to American interests. This is the thing. If we can't open and control the Strait of Hormuz, we can't win. And the price that we would pay to try to open and control the Strait of Hormuz, the American people aren't ready to accept it. For one thing, you need ground troops. And if they got missile batteries 200 miles from the coast, anti-ship missile batteries, you're going to have to go into the mountains 200 miles to put them out of range. Okay, Hollywood has done the worst for the American people, thinking that we know everything and we can just achieve impossible tasks. I don't know what happened with the Venezuela leader, how they got him, but that was an inside job. Maduro. But Iran's just a little different. I mean, they're an intelligent, proud people that may not like their government, but they hells don't like the American government no more either. It's sad. I mean, just think, we have school shootings, right? Was Columbine the worst? 22 people were killed or whatever? Nothing compared to what the United States government can do to little girls' school in Iran, huh? Isn't Putin got a warrant by the International Criminal Courts because of crimes against humanity because of the same thing? Yep, so sad is what's happening in this. See, America has a lot of problems in the world. We stick our noses in. We got crazy people in charge, sadistic Satanists. What they do to children, okay, sadistic Satanists. And they're going to bring hell on earth. But if Americans, I keep telling you people, we need to rise up. Americans don't need to rise up just to take a country back. We need to rise up to bring peace to the world. Our foreign affairs, how we handle foreign countries. I mean, flat out. See, this is one thing I like when we went in there, when I was in. We go to these countries, do what the hell we fucking wanted, no matter what they say or bitched. Only one time I remember where we didn't do that, and we were flying somewhere, and Saudi Arabia said that because of what we were doing, we weren't allowed to fly over their airspace. So let's just say we were in that C-141 for a long damn time. But anyway, if we can't open and control the Strait of Hormuz, we're not going to win this war. I have lots of friends from the U.S., and they all just respect hardworking people, which I am very proud of them. And they keep always wondering if they keep asking me since our Middle Eastern. You know, I appreciate you being here. And as an American, I'm sorry that we won't stand up, especially as fats, to our government so other countries and other citizens don't have to worry about dying because our politicians happen to be pissed off at that time. I'm so sick of other people in this world having to be affected by our policies, where they have to be more concerned about what goes on in Washington than what goes on in their own capital. I apologize to you people. I have been trying. But I just get called, I'm a crazy-ass Marine, and I need to sit down and shut up. Americans have gotten so soft. Okay, I've been over there. Okay? And this is the thing. Iran has the capability of living in the 21st century, as we call it. They just choose not to. That doesn't mean they don't have the ability to. There's nothing wrong with holding on to the old ways. You know, like me, I'm going to make a video tomorrow about what Americans don't do no more. I use a Ringer wash machine, one that's over, I think it was made in 1950s, over 70 years old. I use a wood-burning stove. I don't rely on petroleum products for that. Okay? I use a maul to split my wood. I use a pitchfork to feed my horses. I'm not giving into this shit. I use a push mower to mow my lawn. I use a scoop shovel to shovel my snow. I refuse to give in to the shit. You know what helps? I'm 58 years old and don't have to go to the doctor. Pretty fair trade-off, I feel. But Americans have gotten soft. The way I was brought up, I had calluses on my hands by the time I was 6 years old. And I'm glad I grew up that way. I was allowed to get away with stupid shit. I had to do a job right. I was, had responsibility on me. You know, when we were in high school, we managed a job, homework, sports, and a social life, all in one day. But then again, we didn't have a phone or a computer in front of our face distracting us, or video games. Anyway, back to winning the war. Okay, see, to have a land invasion, it would be, I mean, you'd have to have a couple points where you hit. But like I say, where's the staging area? You're going to stage in Saudi Arabia? You know, they're getting Chinese and Russian intel. They're going to see us gathering forces, and then you still got to get across the Persian Gulf. I mean, it's not possible, people. We don't have enough. For us to do a land invasion, 2,500 Marines, we need to land, on D-Day, they landed 150,000 troops the first day, okay? That's what we'd have to do. The biggest armada since D-Day. But remember, we're not at war with these people. So I guess Trump would have a hard time selling that. All I'm saying is, I was out there 39 years ago, part of the MAOSOC, Marine Amphibious Unit, Special Operations Capable, part of the Marine Expeditionary Force. Yeah, they've been doing this for a long time. I'm sure they probably still have. See, what you do is you go there and you float around for a while. Then you go to a country and you train with their military and stuff. And then you'll have combined NATO exercises and stuff like that. Just wait for the call to sit there and go into harm's way, right? Why do these clowns come from? Where do these clowns come from? It's all, I'm going to bet the wrong orange. It's all gone a bit wrong for the orange lunatic. I tell you what, 25th Amendment, why I have to carry it done to share peace. There will be no peace till the Prince of Peace returns. Well, I think we're going to suffer. Sorry, just reading a few comments. Appreciate everybody being here, though. You can tell, one thing about this war, boy, isn't it hard to get information on it? It's like the videos you see are repeats and repeats and repeats. Okay? We're not winning this thing. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. And that's Iran's nuclear option. And it's working. They're going to destroy the United States economy. Okay? I'm sure they're not going to, Europe, they're probably not as pissed off at, and the other countries that are going to suffer, but they want to destroy the United States. And like I say, they're at war with us now, and they're not going to stop. Why should they? And they're going to develop a nuclear weapon. North Korea is far worse than Iran. How come Kim Jong-un, we're not invading North Korea? Oh, yeah, that nuclear weapon thing. Anyway, and that's just poor-ass, stupid-ass North Korea, right? Like I say, the Persians have chosen not to have nuclear weapons, have chosen not to come to the 21st century in everything in their culture. But you know what? This is going to bring it on. Their own survival. So this war is going bad. You are in the same age. My birthday in August 24th is mine. Anyway, I spent my 20th birthday in Israel. That was a interesting 2 weeks we were there training with the Israeli commandos and stuff. Hypersonic missiles are not up to date. This is the thing, people. Our ships cannot defend against what Iran can shoot at the Strait of Hormuz. That's why our ships are way offshore. I mean, 700 miles offshore. So that means those planes have to refuel twice before they even get to Iran. I mean, if our Navy's so tough, Trump sits there, all other navies are coming, and no, they're not. And, companies need to send your ships through the strait and stop, act like, and grow a pair of balls. Really, Trump? Send a destroyer through there. Just send a destroyer. I mean, you don't have a problem going through in Taiwan, their Taiwanese straits or whatever. They don't have a problem doing that because they know their ship ain't going to get sunk. But can you imagine waking up one day hearing that we lost about 8 ships, 10 ships in the battle for the Strait of Hormuz, and we lost? I mean, are you ready to hear even us losing one aircraft carrier? To have the news that they used to get in World War II? Okay, America's not prepared for that. You know, they thought this shock and awe was going to do it. Always think this shock and awe. Didn't work. Just, you know, if the people were divided in Iran before, they're not no more. Okay, all I know is a lot of Iranians are dying, and the U.S. is making a lot more enemies every day. And they can bomb them all day long till the sun goes down. But they still ain't going to win that war unless they get troops on the ground. And we're at least, if we were to start today, because we'd have to raise a new army, military, the draft would have to go into effect. So you'd have to draft, what, 2-3 million men? Train them all? You're talking a year and then stage them all? I mean, this is one thing people don't understand. I wish people that never been in the military would stop making their military analyze what may happen, especially like I say, oh, we're going to invade with 2,500 troops. Have you ever been in a Mao before? Have you ever been out there on the ocean just floating around waiting for the bell to ring? Were you ever on a ship like that? Anyway, brain dead. But you got people believing it. You know, I believe that all Marines are bulletproof. But, you know, that's a little bit too much bulletproof. So, and they ain't going to win with the air war. And we can't open the Strait of Hormuz or control it. And our economy is eventually going to crash. Okay? When gas was $5 a gallon last time, Americans had a lot more money. If gas gets $8, $10 a gallon, like they say it may, people ain't got any extra money. Okay? See, this is the thing, people. In the U.S. economy, right, let's look at it as a big pie. And there's only so much money in that pie. You can only stick so much money in that pie that the Americans use, right? And then, or can put into that pie, spend. And everything's got, the pie is cut up, right? Well, if you got some part of the pie that's taking more of the other pie, well, that smaller piece is going to suffer until you only have what? 4 or 5 pieces in the pie instead of 20. It's going to get bad. It's going to get real bad. You know, that's why I say better prepare, people. You know, and just better prepare for all possibilities. You know, if we can't win in Iran, even if we drop nuclear bombs in Iran, that will just bring the end of the end. We cannot win in Iran. No way. So what do? Anyway, crazy times, people, crazy times. Enjoy every day because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. You can say a lot of people just north of me in that huge fire. Man, I don't even know how many cows died. They said they were just opening the gates on the pastures and the cows were just running. I'm going to go up to check out the fire probably tomorrow. And I'm sure I'll see lots of dead livestock. Make a video of it and stuff. But yeah, we got hit with a wallop of a fire. That's why that short I made the other night when I came home with ash and smoke in the air, right? And the thing about it, nothing on the radio. Nothing. How do you burn 500,000 plus acres in a fire and not have one thing on the fucking radio? Not one alert on your phone. I don't know what's happening to America, but that was one hell of a fire. One hell of a fire. That's got to be one of Nebraska's biggest natural disasters, I would assume. I mean, say it had to be 60 miles wide by 60 miles long. 3,600 square miles. Wow, it was huge. Anyway, so glad I guess they're finally getting it out, but the winds finally died down. We need some rain. So all you people that are suffering through the snow right now, I wish it was me. Anyway, I don't like war, but Iran isn't an angel. Yeah, nobody is an angel. Show me one government that's an angel. One. Okay? None. The kingdom of heaven, or whatever your religion is, that's the only perfect place. The perfect government. We don't have it nowhere in the world. The U.S., our founding fathers didn't have anything like this in mind when they created this country. And this is what happens when Americans allowed every citizen in the world to have to suffer because we won't do nothing about it. Like I say, eventually we are going to be occupied by foreign nations. If we don't solve the problem, they're going to come together and solve it. Under tyranny, and it's going to be bad. We're going to suffer even worse, is what I'm saying. Our inaction is going to cause us to suffer a lot of actions against us. But we got social media, shuts you down. All these AI algorithms and control of things. Our freedom of speech is controlled by computer algorithms. And then we got 3-letter agencies like the ATF that regulate our Second Amendment. Since when do I need permission to exercise any of my rights? Anyway, we got a world of hurt coming. I just hope Iran takes it out on the guilty ones. Okay, but the American people aren't Iran's enemy. Washington, D.C. is. And all the people that drink the Kool-Aid. Anybody can tell me how Iran is a threat to the United States? Does Iran stick its nose into our business? No. We stick our nose in theirs. Okay? That's what we're doing. Oh, and I wanted to go to another scare tactic. The drone thing, Iran's going to send drones from where? Ships out on the coast? Why would they send drones? When wasn't it an Iranian ship a year and a half ago? Or when we had all those drone sightings on the East Coast and around the country? Wasn't that an Iranian ship that was sending these drones out that we couldn't track, that could close down White-Patterson Air Force Base? Remember all that shit? Why would they send a drone swarm when they can send a UFO swarm at us? Everybody remember that ridiculous what they told us was going on with the drones, explanation for the drones? It was an Iranian ship launching them. If Iran's capable of outwitting the American military like that, and Iran was able to defeat impede on our airspace unimpeded, boy, do you think we should have went to war with them? I just had to bring that up because I remember, it's an Iranian ship out there that's launching these drones and they're, whatever. That was on the East Coast. Now I guess they're going to launch Was it going to be UFO drones this time, or is it going to be exploding drones? God, we're living in the fucking Twilight Zone. I mean, 40 years ago, let's just say over 40 years ago when I was in high school, you would have told me that the world was going to turn out like this, or in the 90s. No. See, when I first got out of the Marine Corps, went in when Reagan was in, got out when Clinton was in, and let's just say I had seen the transformation of the country. And I knew bad things were coming. But I thought the people would have rose up long before it got this bad. So, but yeah, it's a shit show. It's a shit show. And Americans are all going to pay. Every last one of us. The soldiers would be pansies for nowadays. I tell you what, when we were in, I mean, E3 and below doesn't even have to sit there and polish their boots. They got suede boots. That was part of your discipline. They don't, when they're in garrison, back on base and stuff, when they're not deployed, they don't have to press their camis. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, and then the physical standards, we were all athletes. Everybody in my unit looked like NFL football players, okay? All highly physically fit. You have that nowadays? I mean, this was years ago, probably back in 2012, it might have been. They used to have this magazine called The Fence Post, right? And right in the front cover, it said, how to deal with obesity in the military. And I looked at it and I started laughing. Yeah, it's called PT. Oh, God. And that was 14 years ago. But you know what? We can't challenge them too much. We're going to win a war with all our technology. You know, this is why we're going to be hurting for a while, because China, Russia, they're training men to be soldiers, alpha males. Well, I'm not even going to tell you what our drill instructors have to deal with. And drill instructor, I'm sure they're not allowed to kick them out no more. They got to pass them on through, just like they've been their whole life, passed on through, whether they make the standards or not. It's not the way it was when I was in. If you didn't cut the grade, you didn't make it. You had to earn the title Marine. It wasn't given to you. And boot camp was the easiest part of my first 4 years. Okay? But yeah, I mean, if I went back in the Marine Corps now, I'd get kicked out for being too hard on them. Okay? That was one thing, you know, that movie, Full Metal Jacket, right? If you were in the Marine Corps, the first half hour of that movie when they're in boot camp, you laugh your ass off through it, because it was even worse than that. But I mean, like setting up the mini grinder, you know, and stuff like that in the drill. I mean, we laughed our ass off. We made it through. And as a drill instructor, we were the same way. I mean, you're training these guys to, you know, a drill instructor is the way they are, or a drill sergeant, to save your life, to get in your head, to train you. You know, the first part of the military, they're part of saving your life. All that yelling and screaming and training is to save your life, not to sit there and, you know, whatever. But anyway, yeah, that was a badass show. But no, there ain't gonna be no land invasion, people. Like I say, it'd take a year and 3 months for sure before they could even attempt something like that. Maybe a year and a half to be for sure. Raising the army, training the army, deploying the military, doing, exercise, just ain't going to happen. When they sat there and brought the D-Day, all the Americans over to England to prepare for D-Day, my grandfather was part of that group. And, they trained every day, just like we did in the military. Every single day you train. You're learning something new. You're practicing and practicing, going over shit. But anyway, well, I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate everybody being here. And that's just my thoughts on the land invasion. Not going to happen. Way too complicated. And we don't have the forces, and Iran's got the technology to snip it in the butt before it even gets started. So, this is where we lie. I don't see how United States gets out of this. Even like I say, if Trump pulls out, stops bombing right now, Iran's still at war with us now. And they're not going to stop until we say uncle. And like I say, keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed is their nuclear option against our economy. And you know what? It's working pretty damn good. But anyway, crazy times we live in, folks. Crazy times. But if you come in late, please go back to the beginning of the video and watch it. Watch all my content. YouTube doesn't, like I say, I'm one of these guys out there I'm not trying to get the truth out. I'm trying to get Americans to realize that we're all in the sinking Titanic together. And what's going on in Iran is just another nail in the United States coffin. If Americans don't drop their differences and start going for the goal of getting our country back and making the world safe again. We've become too much of a big bully. The people in D.C. love bullying so much that it's a rush for them. It's a drug that they need. But us American people are going to be the ones that suffer. So, anyway. That's the way I feel about it. But I'll probably be live again, start doing more lives. But, I've been trying to do videos, trying to get my channel to grow that way. But like I say, when that AI algorithm doesn't like you, bam! They can shut your channel down quicker than turning off a light switch. So much for freedom of speech, right? Even if I was 100% wrong, I still have the right for freedom of speech. Keep up the video. What happened to Trump? Compromise? This is the thing. The Epstein list went from Epstein to Netanyahu, and he's sitting there. This crazy time. This is all over covering up the Epstein list. This is what this is about. This is how dangerous nuclear war would be safer for them than letting the truth of the Epstein list get out, okay? That'd be the nuclear bomb for them. Like I say, we live in a world where it's just too corrupt. It's almost, I don't even want to be part of it anymore. Like I say, I need to get out to the mountains like that. I mean, I live in an isolated area now, but I need to get out in the mountains like that. Where, I can sit there and have my beverage and popcorn and read my Louis L'Amour book. Well, I'm looking down the mountains as the United States just collapses. Okay? It's just, Sonny, is that you? Sonny, is that you? I haven't seen you in a while, buddy. I don't know. Is that a new channel for you? I need to subscribe to you again. But crazy times. Crazy time. You live in the big city, you better have a bug out plan. All right, sir. There, Sonny, you're a moderator. By the way, crazy times ahead. And everybody, you see these videos of these missiles and bombs and these buildings blowing up? Pretty soon you won't have to watch videos on it because it's going to be happening in your own city. If we don't put an end to this. There's a lot of responsibility on the American citizens' shoulders right now because we allowed this to progress to the point where we're actually bullying other nations because they don't have a government we like. Too far. Too far. Americans are going to pay a price that we can't pay. Anyway, but that's all I got for tonight. Like I say, thanks for watching. Watch my other content. I appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up. I got a little problem with YouTube. I need to talk to a human being from YouTube, but I probably ain't going to be able to do that until I get to a few more thousand subscribers. So if you could help, because I need what happened, Sonny, is I got monetized, right? But when I filled out my AdSense account, I've changed. I didn't, it's all new to me, and I didn't realize that I put it on business account type on business instead of individual. So they monetized me, but I couldn't get that changed. So I need YouTube to go in there and just switch the account type to individual. So everything else is done. So I can send them a picture of my ID and I can be verified. But see, I can't close my other AdSense accounts because it's got money in it. So YouTube needs to do it on their end. And I'm telling you, I tell you, you're a content creator on YouTube. It's not like you can call YouTube up and say, hey, I got a problem with my channel. Especially when you start getting monetized, it expands your channel, you might say. And I can't even, I sense, all you can do is send messages to their AI. And I've sent messages to the AI. Hey, change my account type to individual. Okay? They won't do it. So I'm just going to sit on. That's another reason I kind of slacked for a while because, the thing is there's a lot of shit going on and I got to prepare myself. I'm always prepared, but, every day that we got to prepare more is better, is a help. And, just being shadow banned and stuff, I got sick of competing or being controlled by a computer algorithm. There's so many things in this country we need to change. Trump ain't doing nothing about the social media platform shadow banning people. And I know that I have content that people want to watch. I mean, when the algorithm falls asleep, I'll have a live stream that has 22,000 views. This is the battle we're fighting, people. We're fighting these maniacs in charge, and they're putting computer algorithms to monitor everything. All these data collection, believe me, there's enough evidence when they decide to come down with the trials against all us patriots. They got enough evidence against me to say, yeah, this guy was a patriot. But, what do? You just got to keep going. Like I say, Jesus had 12 people that followed him that changed the world. 12 people. And after what the Jews are saying about Jesus, let's just say, I studied a lot of history. And I studied a lot about World War II and the Jews, the concentration camps, stuff like that. But they hid a part of history from us, the Weimar Republic. I always had a question. How could the Germans let Adolf Hitler come to power? This crazy son of a bitch who basically didn't lie about what he was talking about. It's because the Weimar Republic tried to change German culture into something that was Sodom and Gomorrah sick. And Hitler made him feel German again. You know, when you really study history, and I'm mad, you know, having to ask myself that question for 50 years. How did he ever come to power? And to come to find out is because of the sick son of a bitch and bankers and elites back then, the government they put in charge of Germany. That's why. Anyway, so I see where this is going. You know, I'm not going to say nothing. It's just, okay. Like I say, they tried to really change German culture with the same stuff they tried changing our culture with the sexual stuff. That was the Weimar Republic. They want to turn Germany into Sodom and Gomorrah. And the Germans rebelled, and we got Hitler. So, you know, was it any different than France after the French Revolution, where the revolution caved in on itself? You know, kind of like a vacuum. And we got Napoleon was crowned emperor and all of that after that. And then we got Napoleon, who creates a lot of hate and discontent and havoc in Europe at the time. See, history repeats itself. And when you stop teaching it, it just allows the next. I mean, our newer generations have no idea. You know, they hear the word fascist, but they don't know the first thing about Adolf Hitler. Where he was born, how he started out, his war years. You know, it's starting out the German Workers' Party, the push. They don't know nothing about that, or about fascist Italy, or Spain. They just hear the word fascist. The only thing between a fascist government and a communist government is a communist government owns everything and says the people own it, okay? In a fascist government, you're allowed to own private property. And that's about the only fucking difference. Kind of like China is right now. They're fascist and communist. Kind of like we are right now. We're fascist and communist. See, the big battles throughout history have always been the fascists against communists. But I know since they have joined forces, I guess it's the fascists and communists against anybody who doesn't want to be a fucking slave to their system. Okay? Anyway, just like I say, prepare people. Make sure if you're in the city, this could go south real quick. Like I say, 10 miles west of me are the silos in the ground where these things shoot up and go to other continents and explode. So I'll get a front row seat. Hopefully I have enough warning before they go off to where I can get to one of my bug out locations about 3 hours from here. Thank God it's all secondary roads the whole way. But crazy times, people, crazy times. Think of what the worst could happen, and it's probably going to be worse than that. Because us Americans are eventually not going to miss out on this round of conflict. Okay? And the average American is not ready for bomb missiles to be flying into the United States, even with conventional warheads. They're not ready for that. I mean, can you imagine if China decided to send some missiles and blow up the Boeing factory in Washington out there on the coast by Seattle? Yeah, it wouldn't be good. Talk about a run on toilet paper. It's all of these school changing what they want these young people to think what history was. I know. Because that's the way they can control them. I mean, they don't teach them to think at all. They have, like I said, I argued with when my kids are all out of school now. But God, so many arguments I had with the superintendents and shit of the schools. Say, what the hell is going on here? I mean, when my kids sit there and my girls come home and tell me that their teacher said that China was the best country ever and it was great and we should all be like China. And I sat them down. This was back in 2010 or 11 maybe, right? And I said, do you realize in China you wouldn't be alive right now? And they looked at me like, oh my God, what? I said, yeah, they're only allowed to have one child and most of them want a boy and they'll kill their girls so they can get their boy. And they all looked at me and I said, it's the truth. And she went back and told her teacher. And they tried giving me guff because I was informing my kid of the facts. Well, you can tell by my personality and my attitude how that went. Me standing up to a liberal, I can have them in the corner crying no time. Anyway, I had a few of talks with teachers that wasn't so nicely. Yeah, it's just, like I say, when I went to school, all the teachers I had, besides when I got into high school and we had some new teachers that would come in, all my teachers were before the Department of Education. They cared what happened and made sure that they all did their part through the grades growing up, that I would become a functional adult. They all cared about that. Okay? And believe me, I made my teachers earn their goddamn money. But they put up with it and they did. And we all did it without being on medication. Yeah. You know, the thing is, we're Americans. We're all Americans. An American, I should be able to go to somebody and say, you know what? I love my pursuit of happiness. And I enjoy my life, but I don't expect you to live that way. I don't expect people to live the way I do. Maybe 10% of the population of the United States could live like I do. Like I say, I use a ringer washer that's 70 years old. I still use a wood stove. I split my wood with a maul. Okay? I do pitchfork, scoop shovel, push lawnmower. You know, I'm an American. We all need to get back to that. And I'm not going to live like anybody else. I'm not required to. I'm not required to live like my neighbor wants me to, or my politician, congressman, senator, or president wants me to. They're supposed to protect my right to live the fucking way I want, as long as I'm not disrespecting anybody. So, you know, I just believe in the American spirit, the culture. And this is what I defended when I was in the Marine Corps. Not to sit there and have to listen to my gut. You know, this is one thing that drives me nuts. Okay? When I was in the military, you took orders. You weren't allowed to travel without a damn piece of paper, a chit. You leave for a weekend off the base too far, you had to have a chit saying you were allowed to be out of bounds. Papers everywhere. Following orders. Not that I ever had a problem being a Marine. I always did what I was told. Did it well, you know, to the best of my ability. But when I got out, when I was driving down that interstate with my papers knowing I was a free man. Okay? I had my DD 214. I was discharged from active duty. I could go wherever I want. I was free. I tell you what, when you first get out of the service, that first day, you know what freedom is. And now these idiots, beta male piece of shit politicians are expecting me to take orders from them again. Are you on how I live? Not on your life. Not on your life. You know, so freedom isn't getting freedom anyway from another for yourself. Freedom isn't getting freedom away from, this is the thing. You know, there's people in this country that want to live as the government's next proclamation tells them they need to. Go to a country. But us that believe that know what America's about, we're not going to live that fucking way. If you feel you need government assistance to survive and you need to sit there and have Dracula in your house, known as the federal government, so you can live, that's your choice. But the rest of us Americans that are independent, responsible for ourselves, have lots of skills, can live on our own, we don't have to live that way. That's prison to us. Okay, I don't have to be in a cell to have a government making me feel like I'm in a prison. Anyway, and freedom isn't free. And, it's coming to the time where we're going to have to, the tree of liberty is going to have to be watered with the blood of tyrants and patriots. That time is coming. Are you willing to stand up for that? Are you willing to stand up to our government? Like I say, not only save our country and our future generations, but the world and its future generations. Could you imagine how safe the world would be right now if America didn't have 185 military bases around the world and we didn't have the CIA butting their nose into other countries' business with regime change and stuff? Well, I tell you what, we wouldn't need a $1.5 trillion defense budget. Yeah. Defense budget goes up 50% and we go to war with Iran, 3 months later? Don't see no connection there, do you? If they weren't there, there would be no army to defend. We need to come home. We need to worry about our own shores. And that's another thing with this ground invasion. Okay, we're going to send all our ground forces to fight a war in Iran. What are we going to leave here? I know there's a gun behind every blade of grass in America. That's good. But, war isn't like that no more, okay? All they got to do is send drones over. God knows what they got. God knows what they got. I mean, fighting this war with autonomous drones and, people that are just sitting in a cubicle somewhere within a simulator, just where they have no connection to the battle at all. It's more of a video game to them. Desensitizes the whole system. Not good. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. They never did diplomacy once. The thing is, we were in talks with them. This is the same thing Japan did to us in World War II. We were in negotiations with them. We did the oil embargo and stuff, and the war was looming between us and Japan, and we had peace negotiations. They had their peace negotiators in Washington, and and then they decided that the fleet was already on the way, but they decided to give the order climb Mount Nataka to attack the U.S., figuring that they could sit there and get the U.S. back to the peace tables on their terms. But they're going to attack the weaker United States. And of course, the United States did intercept the message. In fact, had to decode it before the Japanese embassy, of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Not saying they allowed it to happen, but it sure fit into place, didn't it? Same shit, different century, different millennial. Governments have been through this the same through the millennials because people, human being, the core human being, what makes them shitty as hell hasn't changed. Okay? Through the millennial, human beings, shitty, their evilness has stayed steadfast and survived. So anyway, crazy time. I'm sure if we knew all the history, this would just be a song that's on repeat, repeat. The Egyptian, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Romans, the Carpathians. Yeah. Okay. The Americans. Anyway, appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to get out of here. I've been on it for an hour and 6 minutes already. Have been live for a while. Appreciate. I like coming on. Why? The wife is calling me. Take care, brother. Yep, I got to go too. Anyway, good to see everybody. And I will see you on my next live stream. And don't forget to check out my other content. Some of it's funny, but most of it's serious. Anyway, everybody have a great night. This is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out of here.